To have with us. It is indeed a great pleasure to have with us again Kabir Saxena ji, who was our former SPC head for over a decade, I think, and now he is currently working at the Root Institute in Bodhgaya. So Kabir ji, thank you very much for accepting to come here and teach again, especially on the Lalitavistara Sutra. We'll get some glimpses of Buddha's life today in his lecture. Just a small observation, Kabir. Last time when you taught on this subject, you were not yet 70. Yesterday, Kabir Ji turned 70. So I think your interpretation will change according to your age now.
Really?
I think so. Just a brief introduction to Kabir Ji. Kabir Saxena was raised both in Delhi and London, where he attended Oxford University. Kabir Saxena first met the Tibetan lamas in 1979 and has been living and working at Dharma centers almost ever since, including helping to establish Root Institute in Bodhgaya, where he is based nowadays. Kabir Ji has been teaching Buddhadharma to Westerners and Indians in India and Nepal since 1988. And presents the Dharma in an appropriately humorous and meaningful way for the modern students. And I met Kabir Ji in 1983 for the first time. So you can imagine the journey that we have traversed together. So Kabir Ji, I can, tell a lot of other tales about you, but I'll
Please
stop
don't tell the tales.
So I now request you to teach. And we are very grateful that you accepted to come here and teach us today, despite the fact that you're very tired from being reborn. Thank you.
Well, I was reborn 70 years ago, I guess. But anyway,
No,
yeah,
you're
little
reborn
time.
every day.
I don't think what I'm going to be doing is really teaching, but sharing a few things with you. Thank you very much, Renuka ji. What happened to your usual? आपका यहाँ होता था बैठने का?
ये लोग भूल गए. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. That's it.
So who is new at Tushita? Wow, 1, 2, 3. So welcome, very hearty welcome to you. The center has been, we'll have a quiet period in a minute with some motivation, but just to let you know, Tushita has been here since the end of the 70s, actually. It was started by some Western people, an Australian doctor, an English woman, and various people, some Indian people as well, were involved in the early years. And it was always considered a very important center by our Tibetan teachers, Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe, because it was at a crossroads. People would come through Delhi, Tibetan teachers would pass through Delhi. In the early years, part of what the center performed was to arrange visas for Tibetan teachers going abroad. So many of those teachers would come through and give teachings at Tushita. So the center has been very fortunate to have some of the greatest teachers of this time of, the last 30 years of the 20th century, including at that time, the senior tutor of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and so many other people I could name, including, of course, our own Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe. So yeah, it's really had a very interesting history in Delhi, and we've been very fortunate to have this place, which has been Tushita for 30 years?
3 decades.
3 decades now, with Renuka-ji as the director. Before that, we had a lot of moving around from what was at one time a relatively stable place in Shantiniketan area of Delhi. So we're very fortunate to be here, although it's a small space. But Lama Zopa Rinpoche specifically had made many prayers for this place, as of course Rinpoche did for wherever he went. And one of his prayers, for example, was, may whoever enters Tushita, may they find peace and, of course, enter the path to liberation, lasting happiness. That was Rinpoche's real wish for all of us, always to find that. And of course, when somebody like Lama Zopa Rinpoche makes a prayer like that, I think we take it as something very, very sincere, genuine, powerful, which really has an effect. So I think whoever comes here now has some good effect. Although I'm a bit scared by the lighting. It's a very strong lighting, showing up my 70 years. But anyway, it's very good for people to stay awake. And everything is looking beautiful. And we now have so many good people looking after the center. It's very, very inspiring. And so I'm very grateful for Dr. Singh and Venerable Gyalten Samtenji to allow me to share something with you all. It's a great privilege to do that. And amongst us here we have some very, very seasoned, very genuine practitioners. And excuse me, the Venerable herself has completed 3 years retreat, which is something unusual and something which we can all aspire to, I suppose, at some point. 3 years meditation retreat, right? Now, I find 3 minutes quite difficult, so 3 years, this is not to be scoffed at, you know. The mind bounces here and there, and to do a 3-year retreat is really wonderful. And so, yeah, and Dr. Renuka Singh has been helping for many years with publishing books, editing books by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which is something wonderful to do, I must say, especially if we consider that His Holiness, for us, is really the cause for us being here. And I must say a few words about this as an introduction, because especially for new people, you see, Buddhism died out in India, right, at the end of the 12th century. It pretty much died out after the various factors, including Turkic invasions and all kinds of factors, which one can read about. And it stayed alive, very powerfully stayed alive, because it had already been transmitted to Tibet in the 8th century, 7th, 8th century. The Tibetans made so much effort, tremendous effort, to receive and preserve and spread the teachings of the Buddha. And they were somewhat able to do that because of the remoteness of Tibet, right? So they kept it alive. And the Dalai Lamas, since the time of the first Dalai Lama, which I think is 14th century, 13th, 14th century, the first recognized Dalai Lama. Now we have the 14th great Dalai Lama, of course. They helped so much keep that tradition alive. The Indian tradition from Nalanda, especially Nalanda University, that comprehensive tradition of Buddhism was kept alive in Tibet by great teachers who not just, they weren't parroting the teachings, they were not memorizing it just to repeat it. They retreated on it, they debated about it, they They really lived the teachings, the great teachers, the genuine practitioners. And so, then what happened? The Tibetans were then in a position, or, well, they were forced out of their country by the Chinese invasions. His Holiness fled here, as you may know, in 1959. So then they came back with all these teachings that had been developed and refined and commented on again and again by the Tibetans in very, very precious and detailed, illuminating texts. All of these teachings came across the Himalayas back to India. So that Buddha had taught, the Indian Pandits had illuminated the teachings with their commentaries, but then that tradition had died out, but it has kept alive in Tibet. It died out in India, it's kept alive in Tibet. All of that painstaking work by Indian and Tibetan translators, Tibetan kings, and great beings like Padmasambhava, Shantarakshita, and so forth. So now we're able to enjoy and benefit from this tradition because of the work not only of the great Indian masters, but then the Tibetans. They kept it alive for us since the 8th century. With a little help from their Indian friends or teachers, you could say. And you should study this and be inspired by this. And for example, you could read the biography of Marpa, the great Tibetan translator, which is remarkable. His appreciation and respect for India shines through some of the pages of that biography. His teachers were in India. He came to India, he said, 3 times. Without regard for life or limb, he said, to find the precious Dharma and to sit at the feet of his Indian masters. And then he took those teachings and those realizations, you could say, he realized it in his mind, not just the teachings, took it back to Tibet. What do I mean by realized it? There's an interesting quotation from a great master of one of the Tibetan schools of Buddhism, the oldest school actually, called the Nyingma Pa school. There's a great master called Longchenpa, who lived in the 14th century. He said, in the beginning, he said, I took my teacher as the teacher, right? I took my teacher, my guru as the teacher. In the middle, after, some time, I took the scriptures as my teacher, authentic scriptures as my teacher. In the end, he said, I took my own mind as the teacher, meaning that through the guidance and inspiration of his guru, his teacher, through his study of the texts, right, and then through his own reflection and meditation and so forth, done very, very, obviously very deeply and over time, Longchenpa says, then he was able to realize the teachings with his own mind. Didn't have to rely anymore on something from the outside, whether the Buddha or his guru or the scriptures, which is not to say that he would lose any respect for any of those, not at all. But he would realize that what the teacher exemplifies is the wisdom and compassion in one's own mind. And so that is what really these great Tibetan masters have reminded us of. And if any of you have the great good fortune to meet or get a quick blessing from His Holiness the Dalai Lama and many of the other great masters, then you feel that presence of a being, in a human being, but somebody who has really, what shall we say? Words are inadequate, right? Words are inadequate in these cases, but someone who has trained their own mind and is totally spacious and open and kind, right? And you get this sense of great strength and wisdom from these kind of people, these kind of human beings who are so special. So we are very lucky. In India, we're so lucky, actually, because most of these great beings, they live here, Part of the year, at least, they live here. So, yeah, it's a great opportunity for us Indian people. So Tushita started, and many centers in India started because Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche wanted to, you could say, repay the kindness of the historic, as they put it, Indian people, historic Indian people, for providing the teachings in the first place, and then giving refuge to the Tibetans after 1959, giving land and protection, you could say, to the Tibetans. Now the time has come where we have to realize that we may be the historic Indian people, but we owe so much to the historic Tibetan people, right? Due to them, we are able to again explore these teachings. So all of these texts, that we're looking at, they're all being made available to us through the, usually, most often through the Tibetan translations from the original Sanskrit, since many of the original Sanskrit texts have been lost over time, you see, but the Tibetans kept it alive. That's something extraordinary. So I hope some of you will study this and be inspired by what the Tibetans have done for us, for the world, and recognize the extraordinary nature of their, of the lineages, the four main Tibetan schools, and then their subdivisions and so forth. So much has been offered to us. So we're able to sit here and reflect and explore these teachings due to all of that and the great, great kindness of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and our teachers for encouraging us and actually for showing their example. Their example is, part of one wants just to talk about the way our teachers lived and taught, and their example is just extraordinary when one thinks about it. So, sorry, very long introduction. I was promising you some quiet, but I think it's important to recall this. So Tushita is here as an embodiment of, one particular school of Tibetan Buddhism, but since our own teachers embodied a very open approach, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche had a lot of, he had teachers from the oldest school of Tibetan Buddhism, the Nyingmapa, as well as, of course, from the Gelugpa, or the Yellow Hat School. Yeah, we have yellow hats, yeah? Lama Tsongkhapa, the founder of the of this particular school from the late 14th, early 15th century, a great saint, scholar, meditator. This yellow hat Gelugpa school is particularly represented, you could say, by Tushita. But to give an idea of our approach, Lama Zopa Rinpoche was, as I said, a Gelugpa teacher in one way, but with a lot of Nyingmapa gurus and practices, and gave inspiration to us. And for example, our spiritual program coordinator, Venerable Samten, she also received teachings and guidance in her retreat from another school, from the Kagyu, I think Kagyu teachers, or Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism. So it's a good example, I think, for us that in our practice we also don't become sectarian and just think that only one school of the four great schools of Tibetan Buddhism is the best or the only one. They're all teaching us how to wake up completely, which is what is the subject matter of our exploration tonight that we've been looking at for several sessions. How to wake up, how does Buddha's example show us how to wake up? Wake up out of what? Wake up out of ignorance, if we want to use just a very short way of saying it, to wake up out of being out of touch with our original nature, our basic pure nature, our Buddha nature, our basic goodness. We speak of basic goodness a lot, at least using modern language. How to wake up to that and to really then be of benefit to this world. So as part of the motivation, and I want this session to be more interactive, I'm not here to give a scholarly approach to the Lalitavistara Sutra. That can only be done by scholars who have studied this text very deeply and know a lot more about it than I do. I'm basically sharing it because of my being inspired by it through looking at murals, panels on the wall, a particular wall at Bodhgaya, which has the whole sutra beautifully inscribed in gold lettering on the western wall of one of the lake, the pond next to the great Mahabodhi temple in Bodhgaya. So when I would stop and look at the verses on some of the panels of the life of the Buddha, it was just so beautiful, so profound, so inspiring that I thought, well, this is something I would like to share with people, since one has nothing original to share, but one can share this very wonderful text which illuminates the life of, some would consider, the greatest beings of India and of the world even, the great expounder of the wisdom and compassion tradition of India. Anyway, so the Lalitavistara shows us, the life of the Buddha shows us that incredible outcome of practicing the spiritual path in a genuine fashion. So let's, after this very long, I'm afraid, I'm sorry, kind of intro, we can just sit quietly for a moment, and then I'll just introduce something we could reflect on to develop perhaps a sense of gentleness and kindness towards each other and the world, which which could be useful. So just be relaxed and open with your back straight if possible, if it's easy, and the front of the body open, which is very significant. The healthy self-confidence of the uprightness and the openness of the front of the body. So we're open to each other, to the world, open to the explore and work with others. We're not going to close down and block our, communication with other beings who are needing our help. Let's face it, people need our help. We need other people's help. So front of the body is open to two-way communication. And that's very important. And just take a few deep breaths and just let the busyness of the day and the crazy nature of the traffic outside, with all these poor people trying to get home from work, getting frustrated and stressed out, just trying to get home, trying to make a living. So just allow yourself to relax with the out-breath especially, and feel that you're in a place which is totally dedicated to nurturing our goodness, our awareness, our goodness, the best aspects of our human nature and our human potential. And now, if I may ask you to remember a situation in the last few days, it might have been the last few hours, where you have been very annoyed by somebody or very upset or even angry at somebody, okay, in the last few days, right? Can you remember that? If not, wonderful. You may have to go back further. If our mind is very subdued and gentle, you may have to go back further, but try and remember a time when you were quite upset with somebody, to the extent of being annoyed and angry and really quite fed up with the person. Okay, so now think, okay, this person or people, they annoyed me, they did something wrong, they used language I didn't like, or they upset me, I helped them and they didn't show any gratitude and even ignored me, or, whatever. And now think, look, how am I able to be sitting here at Tushita today? How did that happen? And I don't mean the vehicle you came here in, or if you just walked here. I mean, where did this very body come from? Okay, in the beginning, where did this body come from? So we'd all have to agree it came from out of the body of our mother. So that required mother, father. And then, have you seen pictures? Do you have relations who've had tiny babies? You know what it's like to be a tiny baby? Totally helpless, totally helpless. Maybe some of you are mothers, fathers. So you know what it's like, right? Helpless being, totally dependent on mother, especially mother usually, and also father, also father. Constant need for food and totally unaware of, toilet training, just completely like a little machine for taking things in and passing them out. And the mother and father have to put up with this. Usually more the mother, usually. Night after night, for how many nights, Unbelievable. Really, it's pretty remarkable how parents look after their children. We help someone for a few hours or a day, we think it's such a big deal. And of course, it's wonderful. But a parent, goodness me, day in, day out, for years, literally has to be for years. And then, as we get older, we depend on so many countless people, for everything. The clothes, the food, the houses, the roads, everything. Everything is put together by other people. We may complain if the bus or the plane or the train is late, but how extraordinary that these modes of transport exist, which we didn't invent, we didn't make them. Unbelievable, unbelievable. And we use them. So this person or people who made you angry, theek hai, people behave in a strange way due to many factors, which of course we can study. But look how much we depend on others. It's total dependence on others. So if I maybe, and it's true, Renuka-ji told the truth, I am 70 years old. So then 70 years, that means 70 years of depending on other people. one way or another. And to have a birthday party like we had yesterday, I thought once every 10 years one can make a big deal of it. So then that totally depends on other people to help organize everything. You know? So where can you point to in your life do you not depend on others? For your opinions, for your news, for your everything. If you have a good mind which knows how to reason and so forth, or whatever, or a kind heart, most likely you also had a role model or someone who helped you develop those qualities through their example, through their teaching, whatever. So then it begins to look as though, these periodic episodes of being upset and angry with others, okay, it's going to happen, but please, we mustn't forget the kindness of others. It is extraordinary. And it becomes even more powerful when we remember how much people suffer. People are in frustrated mode, they are stressed, they are lonely, they are without a guide, they are, you name it. Messing up their own and other people's lives very often through their selfishness. Shooting themselves in the foot, as we say, through their selfishness. Not caring about others. Obsessing about themselves all the time. It's unbelievable. And of course, because we know it in ourselves, how much we suffer. Suffer means how much unsatisfactoriness there is. How much lack of space there is in the mind. So these people who've been kind to me, they need help. They're chasing after happiness in all sorts of weird ways, which are not going to make them happy. Well, of course, we are very skillful. We know how to make ourselves happy for short periods. That's for sure. But pleasure, pleasure, we know about pleasure. I don't know about long-term happiness. That's very elusive because we don't know the causes. We don't know what's getting in the way. So all these beings, it's really very sad, don't you? It's very sad. They've helped me, they're suffering, and we don't know how to get out of the suffering. So that's why, you see, that's why the life of the Buddha is so important, because the life of the Buddha shows us a way to behave, a way to face the world courageously. We don't have to follow his guidelines exactly in terms of how he lived, but the main themes are there, which we really have to pay attention to. And his life is very, very worthwhile for us to investigate, because it's not like he was born into, sudden... he didn't suddenly become a sadhu, He wasn't born a monk or nun or a sadhu. He went through ordinary life, you could say conventional life, sheltered life, life of pleasure. Then he began to, really wake up, ask questions, very inconvenient questions about sickness, old age, death, suffering, which people don't usually like to ask, So I was hearing just yesterday from someone who was disillusioned with a life where you are working hard during the week, as, let's say, a lawyer, and then come Friday, you're expected to party hard in some way, drink the drugs. And then Saturday, Sunday, I guess you kind of recover from the party and maybe do some revision for Monday, I don't know, whatever. And then again, the week, hard work. And then again, it's just unsatisfactory, let's say. So the Buddha said we suffer, and we suffer because of holding on to a strong sense of I, me, and mine. That self-identity we want to preserve. That sense of grasping and craving. And then we behave in strange ways based on grasping and craving and anger and attachment and so forth, and create causes for misery. So again, where the life of the Buddha can be very useful is in providing us a context for believing that and having trust in the Buddha and in his teachings. Because one of his most powerful things he's saying is that there is an ending of sorrow. There is an ending of this unsatisfactory going round and round and round. There's an ending of it. So why should we believe him? Why should we believe the Buddha, Of course, the ultimate way is to study and debate and practice and so forth, but just also exploring the Buddha's life gives us some encouragement and great inspiration to investigate more the Buddha's teachings. There may be some people, I suppose, who by just studying the Buddha's life may develop some very, very powerful, deep inner realizations of the spiritual path. But for most of us, it is said we have to study and we have to reflect on things a lot and we have to meditate, which means to really familiarize with ourselves with the teachings so that it becomes something very real for us. Most of us have to do that. But it's very inspiring to, I think, look at the life of the Buddha, especially in the Mahayana way of approaching it, which if you read the sutra, you will understand a little bit what I mean by the Mahayana way. It all becomes rather unusual, let's say, and very special, and somehow you might feel exaggerated in parts, but also very powerful. Okay, so already I spent a lot of time on this, and I hope it's not been a waste of your time. But I think very important to remember gratitude for our teachers, for the tradition, for the Buddha, for the Tibetans, for the Indian masters before them, who kept this tradition of inquiry and spiritual practice alive over 2,600 years, right? Almost, yeah. Okay, so where should we begin now? We keep on beginning at the beginning, in a sense, because this is not a university course where you've all been coming to lectures and, your attendance has been good. We have people here who are new, so I can't, go straight into something towards where we left off. Are you comfortable like that? Is that hurting? A little bit, because you might want to shift against the wall. So, the life of the Buddha. I'm not going to give it all in brief again. You can easily read about these things. But I will need to mention a few things again and again. Our teachers usually they talk about the power of having positive aspirations. I think Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to say something like, things are Our future is based on the tip of a wish. Our wish is something that then extends into the future. We aspire for something, and then slowly that becomes a reality through aspiring for that again and again and again. And we can see how it works in ordinary life. You aspire to be this, you aspire to go to university, then you aspire for a certain, job. You aspire for things strongly enough, and then you are motivated to work towards that. So what were the Buddha's aspirations? What were the aspirations of this being who was born in a very privileged, as a prince? He was a prince who had a very, very, very comfortable life. His father made sure he had all the comforts, So what were his aspirations? What did he see in life that didn't satisfy him? Yeah. So this is something from the sutra. Apparently he made many aspirational prayers in the past, because remember, Buddhism believes in continuity of consciousness, beginningless mind, okay? No beginning to our awareness, and no end of it either. The body keeps on changing. We keep on, like a very, very enthusiastic traveler, we move from one hotel to another. So this has been going on forever, according to traditional Buddhist teaching. So he had made many aspirations already in the past, when he had stopped being a kind of an ordinary being with very selfish motivations and no real understanding of how things exist, or without having much compassion. But then when he became a very special kind of person, having created a powerful sense of compassion and love for others together with wisdom, then he made very powerful aspirations. And apparently the third aspiration he made from the past was, alas, this world has raised the banner of pride and egotism. It is obsessed with clinging to I and mine. People's minds grasp at the self, and false notions of a self distort their views. May I bring down this banner of pride that thinks I am, by showing them the noble path. So much, a very qualified teacher could say so much about this short paragraph. So we are obsessed with I and mine. Can we think of any real big problem in the world today which is not at its root, contaminated by this obsession with I and mine? My country, my party, what I feel is best for me and my survival, my people, my, progress, my elevation to a higher, position, etc., etc. It's all based on clinging to me, protecting me, protecting my reputation, even if that means telling hundreds of lies every day. I will protect me. I must protect me. When we look at it, it's obvious, right? We keep on protecting ourselves with nonsense like that. And mine, I and mine. I is the central headquarters, and that creates all of this. Mine, my taste in tea and chocolate and dessert, and my this, my country, my education, my degree, my Oxford career, blah, 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 blah. And then we advertise it to everyone so that they think we're a big deal, right? We're trying to make ourselves into quite a big deal. At least I am, yeah. Big deal Kabir, You can see me on YouTube, good grief. Good luck to you. I, me, mine, all the time, me. I'm right. If I have a discussion with someone, or especially with someone whom I think I don't agree with fully, then I will spend that discussion not trying to find something new or learn something. I will engage in that discussion or argument in order to try and convince the other person that I am right. Wouldn't it be amazing, don't you think? This is something very important, I think. Wouldn't it be amazing if people from different countries, people who are discussing very powerfully, very difficult matters, or just two individuals discussing difficult, challenging matters, wouldn't it be amazing if they both sat down and felt, okay, this discussion is not about me trying to convince the other person that I am right, okay? But maybe some new factor can come out of our discussion. Some kind of light can be shone on what is reasonable and true and useful, But what do we do? What are countries doing? What are people doing? Me. I'm right. I cannot let go of my opinion because it is like stuck onto my body with some kind of super glue, onto my identity rather. My opinion is stuck onto me. And if I have to change my opinion, then it's going to affect my sense of who I am. And that's threatening, right? So people's minds grasp at the self, false notions of a self distort their views all the time. Our view, my view, our country's views. And that's so contentious. Then friends become enemies if they don't agree to my view. Really, I have to tell you this. My mother had a really good friend in England, one of her best friends. So her daughter also was well known to our family, and they have, this daughter lives in England with her family, 3 children. I've lost count of the grandchildren. Okay, so this person, she was so upset with me because I didn't criticize the Indian government for having a relationship with Russia. Because for her view is that somehow the West is the best in that way, and Putin is the incarnation of evil in this world. How dare India have a relationship with Russia? And she even went to the extent of saying, look, if you don't agree with me, then, and I couldn't believe she was saying this educated, Cambridge-educated English literature student, then saying that if you don't agree with me, it's going to affect our relationship. I was going, wow, This is all over WhatsApp, by the way. It doesn't matter if it's WhatsApp or Zoom or person to person. If one has a strong opinion, one can express it anywhere, right? So I was flabbergasted. Yeah, I was amazed, Has this person bothered to check about our relationship, our historic relationship with Russia? Have they bothered to check about the really deep and multifaceted causes of the Ukraine war? No, we would rather take sides, and this is my view, and it's right, and you are wrong, and you are, if you don't agree with me, then I have a problem with you. Big problem, even though we've been friends for years, and my mother was your mother's one of her best friends. Doesn't matter. So, wow. We really have very, very strong views, which we are obsessed with, and it creates problems. And we can see reflections of this in India. We are not free of, I just invite you to look at Indian news channels occasionally and how they discuss things. And you'll see that people are not discussing in order to, in a logical way, learn from each other, but simply to try and hammer other people into submission with their own views. So anyway, Buddha saw this so clearly, and even before he became a Buddha, he said, may I bring down this banner of pride that thinks I am. See, as soon as we think I am, then the I becomes super important. Of course, we're not saying you can't say I am. I'm sitting here, you're sitting there. This is language, which is, I guess, helpful. But if we start overemphasizing the I, then of course, if I started doing that, I would become very uncomfortable, actually. If I started really overemphasizing I, because then I would think, oh, what are people thinking of me? Can they see these newly formed wrinkles? Can they see that I have a squint in my right eye? Can they see this? Can they see that? Do they think I'm an idiot? Or do they think I'm really intelligent, You know, if I kept on thinking of I, then I would go gaga. I wouldn't be able to continue speaking, you know, because I'd be so caught up with what people might be thinking about me. So there's that sense that I, me, mine. Of course, it doesn't mean I've got over the I just because I can speak continuously and bore you for half an hour. So anyway, the pride of me. So the Buddha saw clearly, the Bodhisattva, that is someone on the path to Buddhahood, saw clearly how this banner of pride has to be brought down, pride in the me. And how to do this? By showing the noble path, the noble path. Yeah. So suffering, cause of suffering, suffering can come to an end. The path that leads to the ending of suffering, that path, combining wisdom, compassion, basically. So how to help beings to follow the path, and the Buddha wasn't sure initially he could do it. He really wasn't sure at all. When he first attained enlightenment, it's very, very interesting and evocative phrases he used that, people aren't going to understand this Dharma. It is so profound and deep and pure and so forth. People aren't going to understand because they're so caught up in their views and so forth. And he said it'll be burdensome and painful for me to try and teach them when they are not understanding it. So it's better that I just go and remain in the forest. This is what the Buddha is said to have taught, or maybe uttered after his enlightenment. And then, of course, some beings who are already very evolved, they persuaded him that no, some people will listen to you, some people will get some benefit. So this we have to remember, that the Buddha almost in one sense didn't teach. You could say that's part of the... You see, this sutra is called a play. It's a play, the play in full, Lalitavistara. It's like things are like a theater, like Shakespeare said, right? Life is what? Life is a play. I think I have someone on Zoom here who probably knows the quote. Sujitji, are you there? Traveling between here and Dehradun? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, what's that quote from Shakespeare about life being a theater and all that? Can you remember?
Stage.
Which one?
Which is but a stage or
Which
something?
one? I didn't. What?
Just
The
reminding
seven
us that
stages.
everything is like a bit of theater, really. Anyway,
Where he says about, yeah. You want me to
bhai,
recite that?
you are one of my major sources, so why don't you let me know if you can? But it's something about life
Stage.
being
Which one?
okay. Life is a stage, right? And we are actors, something like that. So it's a bit like that. You can spend
All
time
the
trying to
world's a stage.
all the world's a stage, right?
All,
And we are actors strutting about, right?
all the men and women merely players.
Merely what?
They have
Player.
their exits and their entrances.
They have their exits and their entrances. Yes, yes, yes.
And
Wonderful.
one man in his time plays many parts.
One man in his time has many
And one man in his time plays many parts. His
plays
acts
many
being seven
parts.
ages.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that. So from the perspective of Mahayana Buddhism, this great being has already become a Buddha and he's playing a part. He is showing us how to wake up. So he's playing many parts, the part of the precocious child, the part of the young prince, the part where he has to show his prowess to win his bride, the being a father, he's playing that part. Then he's playing the part of someone who gets insight and disillusioned with the world. Then he plays the part of someone who has to fight, in a sense, the control of his society, embodied by his father, who doesn't want him to do anything except become the prince and not even think about liberation or something crazy like that. Then the part where he actually escapes, cuts off his hair, and becomes an ascetic, wandering in the jungles of North India with ragged clothes. He's changed the part of being someone in beautiful purple or whatever royal vestments and wearing rags. And then he plays the part of someone who engages in very ascetic practice, not eating at all, really, for about 6 years, not eating properly, not bathing. Can you imagine in the Indian weather not bathing for 6 years? It's absolutely unmentionable, And then the part of, softening up a bit and accepting some nourishment. And then the part of course, throughout it, the part of the great warrior, great courage that he showed, and then being determined not to get up until he had achieved awakening, when he came to the famous Bodhi tree in Bodhgaya. Yeah, so all of these parts are being played, are being displayed in order to help us, in order for us to get inspiration and for us to wake up. Yeah. Well, this next para is very good, but it might require some lengthy explanation. So, but let me read it. Those who will get some benefit from it. And this is not from the text itself. In fact, this is from a very good introduction to the text. The world is fashioned according to the lenses that we use to see with, and here, in the play in full, which is one translation of the Sanskrit title, Lalitavistara, the lenses are those of full and complete awakening. As such, the events in the Bodhisattva's life are not ordinary karmic activity that unfold based on the mechanisms of a conceptual mind, but rather the playful manner in which the non-conceptual wisdom of a 10th level bodhisattva, a very highly evolved being, almost a Buddha, the wisdom of a 10th level bodhisattva unfolds as an expression of his or her awakened insight. In this manner of storytelling, the reader is invited into the worldview of a timeless and limitless universe, as perceived by the adepts of the Mahayana. The time span, the numbers, and the sizes within this Mahayana scripture are so persistently overwhelming that all historical and scientific thinking as we know it eventually loses meaning and relevance. So you might say, if it loses relevance in these terms, in terms of scientific and historical thinking, then what does it mean to me? Because I believe in history, I believe in science. So how can a kind of fantastic story like this, which is like a kind of science fiction, I think people who enjoy science fiction, really you will enjoy this sutra, because it's incredible. It is very vast. Things don't happen in a kind of in a very small way, if you like. It's very larger than life in some ways. So you would enjoy it. So how does this relate to our life? How do we relate to, for example, when we hear in this sutra, and we'll have some discussion soon, okay? I don't want to talk for much longer. When it says in this sutra that the father of the prince, right, when he realizes that his son, whom he's already concerned about, he already knows, right, from the astrologer, the holy man, when his child was born, when Siddhartha was born, he knows that there seems to be some, ability, this child, the astrologer said, could either be, a great king, he could be the king in your place, or he could be a very holy being, a very holy being, a liberator of beings maybe. And the king didn't like that, You could see the king was more conventionally, selfishly wanted his son to be his successor. He didn't want him to be a great liberator of beings or a holy person who has woken up, and that's how we think, yeah, limited worldview. That's what the father had as a father. So that's what he had to contend with. And based on this view, the king is said to have engaged in incredible efforts to prevent Siddhartha, first of all, from seeing anything unseemly or anything that reminded the prince of old age or death or sickness. But then, almost amusingly, he's engaged in sending regiments of his soldiers and guards to the different gates of the city so that his son cannot escape. Because he knows his son is aching to get out into that world and do something else and not accept the golden prison of the palace and to be, fed all the entertainment and so forth that he gets every evening amongst all the pleasures of the court and so forth. And then he has a wife and a son. So his father is hoping that all of this is going to, make him just a politically correct person, right? But he's not interested in that. So the father, Suddhodana, is sending regiments to the north gate and the south gate and saying to people, it's quite amusing and fantastic and would make great theatre, and not only theatre but a movie. Have any of you seen Lord of the Rings movie? You must have, right? It's pretty grandiose, right? So it's something like that, parts of that. It's like, and it has to be seen on I think an inner level as well, right? A symbolic level. The ego structure goes to such lengths, probably to protect us, to prevent us from waking up, because it's just too threatening to our way of living, to our conventional understanding. Even though it may be unsatisfactory, we don't want something that we don't really understand, which is threatening to I, me, and mine. So if you enjoy reading and don't mind a bit of what you would consider exaggeration and pageantry and all sorts of things like that, then you will enjoy this sutra. Because it's also a very human sutra, and it's very inspirational. Constant references to the gods and demigods, and inspiring and asking the young prince to remember his promises that he made during his previous lifetimes, his promises, his aspirations to help others. Don't forget your aspiration to help these suffering beings. How can you wallow in the pleasures of the court when all these beings are suffering outside the walls, that kind of thing? How can you? How can you give up on others who need your help? People who have, who are just struggling with their pride, with their ego, with this and that. So it's very inspirational in that way, this particular sutra. So, you should, it's easy, someone from Tushita can send you the link to the sutra. What is great, of course, is to go to Bodhgaya, the place of awakening of Lord Buddha. And just my recommendation, especially if you're a morning person, get up early one day and go to the main temple, and then you go to the pond, which has the Buddha statue in the middle. Go to the western wall, yeah. So in the Jewish tradition, the western wall is where you go and wail, and it's a wailing wall. But in Bodhgaya, on that wall, you can see the life of the Buddha, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing to read some of that. If you have to be in the right mood. You have to not have an upset tummy too much, and you have to, be wide awake, and then it's very, very, very inspirational. Early morning is best, unless it's, midwinter, but morning is good to do that. So then you can get very inspired by this amazing being whose only work, you could say, his only wish, his only work was to liberate others. Totally understanding how we suffer, why we suffer, and how dreadful it is, because we don't understand how dreadful it is. We know headaches and a bit of depression here and there, but we don't know we can't remember our past lives, so we don't remember all of the horrific things we've been through, you know. If we've had childhood traumas, let's say, we don't remember it usually. Our forgetfulness protects us in that respect, usually, by and large. We don't know what's coming. Of course, the teachings say you don't need to know what's coming. To know what's coming, just look at how you're behaving now. That's what the teachings say. What are you thinking? What are you saying? What are you doing with your hands and feet, you know? I'm laughing because of, some things that happened at the party last night at my 70th. So I'm just wondering what sort of beings I'll become if I dance like that too often. I'll be a very restless being, I think, with my limbs all kind of uncoordinated and weird. So we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful, I guess, with what we're doing. Otherwise, yeah, the Buddha said there is endless sorrow, endless being caught in the prison of cyclic existence. So after all this blather, let's have some discussion, because it's already 7:41. And you won't believe this. It's nice sometimes to be honest, isn't it? Of course, we'll have a good discussion. I'm not going to... But my auntie is promising that she and I will watch Frankenstein on Netflix tonight. Frankenstein. Well, that'll be interesting, because, of course, you can see it in a Dharma perspective, but I hope I remember the Dharma while I'm watching it. But, yeah, that's what's in store for me this evening, if I live that long. But let's have some discussion now, because there may be something you want to mention from your side. Some of you, as I said, are real practitioners, so you may have something to say which will help the new people here. So that would be very interesting to hear. Or if you have any basic question, you're welcome. I'm sorry this was not a scholarly analysis of the Lalitavistara, but that would require more study and a very, very long time. Yeah, and a kind of regular schedule of teachings every week or something like that. But I'm not based here in Delhi. Okay, who wants to start? Yes, Nivitaji.
Kabir Ji, when we talk about Kabir Ji, when we talk about
Kabir Ji, we can't hear Nivita.
I will repeat what she says.
can you hear me now?
Can you hear her now?
Not
No.
really.
Oh, that's Naveenji. Wow, you look like something out of Easy Rider or something. Yeah, anyway, you look great. Yeah, Haji. I will repeat her question.
So
Hey,
I feel like when
are you supposed to keep this next year? Yeah.
when people kind of say bad things about us
About us or about me?
about ourselves,
Hmm.
and the ego comes up because of something negative, that feels much stronger and visible and easily identifiable. But when it's something like a compliment or something that soothes or placates our ego, it feels harder to kind of point to that as, oh, this is also not good.
Oh,
It
really?
feels harder to distinguish.
So she's saying that when someone criticizes you, that's obvious and negative, but when someone compliments you, you can't see how that is encouraging the ego. I don't know.
I think you can see it, but it feels more harder to kind of just to say, oh.
It's quite soothing, isn't it, when people compliment
Yeah, it feels
us?
like
Yeah.
I need it.
I need it. Yes,
And,
yes,
or
yes.
It's hard
That's
to
true.
just call it bad or to name it, to see its harm. Kind of.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
is the practice for this?
I mean, Charok Lama, who's this wonderful young Lama teacher who, it is said, is the reincarnation of a great sage from the Himalayan mountains, who was had a cave near our own teacher's cave up in the Solukhumbu area of Nepal. He gave some teachings a couple of years ago, and he didn't mince his words. He was very kind, but he said very clearly, we are like little children constantly on the lookout for crumbs of affection from others. We're wanting, confirmation and appreciation from others all the time. And I said, yeah, that's kind of, and we're like little children. Like, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was like that. We're like little unsatisfied children who are just constantly looking for scraps of approval and appreciation to make us feel okay. So of course, if people praise you, it's, yeah. But of course, you have read the Shantideva, right? Where he's talking about how it's much better to be criticized than to be praised. But yeah, that's for people who are taking that part seriously. And I agree with you. It is not nice to be criticized unless you know the guy is crazy. Then you don't mind. Say the person's crazy. So my thing, as I've said before, it's difficult, but I try to think everybody's crazy. Everybody, we're all in a loony bin, myself included, but maybe I'm a bit less loony than others. Everybody is potentially crazy. No one is going to behave reasonably. So why be upset when they don't behave reasonably? Since you're in a lunatic asylum called samsara, why should people behave properly? So that's easier said than done, right? Very easy to say. But it can help just to have that idea that why should someone be courteous and reasonable? When we ourselves know what we go through sometimes when we're upset or concerned with something, we're just not paying attention to other people. It's not like people are deliberately trying to make us upset all the time. It's not like that. If we put ourselves in their place, we might behave like that or worse, right? So that's helpful. But I guess our teachers would always say, when someone criticizes us and you feel it, then you say, great, now let me explore who is this person who has been criticized. Then we use it to try and develop the wisdom. Of course, we could also use it to develop compassion maybe, but, you criticize me, I studied 3 years at a good university and you're saying I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm saying. Then, who is being criticized? Where's this I that feels so powerfully upset? Where is it? In the body? Which part of the mind? Who am I? In other words, so one could use that, but again, I think that requires a lot of training in that. Usually we want to just lash out at the person who has not been nice to us. And as we know, words are so powerful, right? A few words from someone, say we appreciate someone, yeah? We care for what they think about us. This is a tough one, right? Then they say something we don't like. That's very difficult. Who cares if somebody from across the road insults us? We don't know them. It's not too bad. But someone you care for and you thought, and then they tell you something which may be true about oneself, but we don't want to hear it. That's very painful. So I guess, what is it? One teacher, the teachers are constantly reminding us, I think, that the Buddha, all of his teachings, he said, are aiming at bringing the disciple to an understanding of reality, the nature of the self, how things exist. Everything is aimed at that, so that we can identify the real troublemaker, which is the self-grasping ignorance, because that's what makes us selfish. That's what makes us full of pride. I don't know. Please add, please, Venerable Ajit Ji, please add your comments. Yeah.
Kabir Ji, I have a question.
Uh-oh. JNU versus Oxford.
I've also been to Oxford, by the way.
Oh, now I'm in a big disadvantage. Now I better get really defensive.
Okay. So, Kabir Ji, what does it mean to you to be 70? And how does Buddha's life resonate in your own life?
70, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. Yeah, when I was 30 or 40, I could do so much more and run around. And when I look at my photos, people say, wow, you look like that. You look so handsome. You had hair. I get deflated. Then I have to go and whine and talk to my friends who are similar age to me. And then we reassure each other. It's okay, you know. There are some of us senior citizens around, you know, you get a lower berth on the trains, you know, come on, there are some advantages to being 70. Although actually I prefer the upper berth, but they give the lower berth, the tika, you don't have to climb up, you know. So what it means to be 70 is, if I was serious, if I gave a serious answer based on serious reflection and meditation, which I can't, then I would say, it shows me that there's not much time left. There's not much time left, and soon this decrepit body will separate from the mind, and then they'll say, oh, that house, that's where Kabir used to live, you know, that guy, you know, Oxford, I think, you know, Cambridge or Oxford, they'll say, you know, that's where he lived, and whatever else they want to say. So yeah, getting closer to death. Everyone's getting closer to death, but I'm kind of closer than close, right? 70 years and 10, says the Bible. So 320s are 60 plus 10 equals 70. It's time for me to go. And what was the second part of your question? How does it what?
How does Buddha's life resonate in your life?
I think I'm relatively sane still because of the Buddha and his teachings and the kindness of my teachers. That's one way to put it. The other part is a very interesting, very deep question of yours, which is how it resonates, because if you look at the Buddha's life as basically escaping from the constriction of, okay, I'm not trying to be clever here with my words, but escaping from the whole conceptual framework that his father and society had provided, that this is you, this is how you should be, you know, you should be a good family person, you got everything going for you, you got a kingdom, you got a wife, you got a son, what else you want, you know, what else you want? So he had the courage to go beyond that. He had the courage to say, to hell with that. He didn't say to hell with that. He was very polite in his language, I'm sure. He said, no. And he had this tremendous compassion. So, of course, that's something kind of I aspire to when I remember to aspire to it. He had this incredible compassion to be of benefit to others. So that's how I feel resonate in my life. I just feel, you know, when I read those words on the Western Wall in Bodhgaya, I say, wow, isn't it amazing? This person, isn't he amazing? Weren't his aspirations amazing? Could one possibly be like that a little bit, you know? And one actually feels at those moments, wow, one could do something for others. Otherwise, a lot of the time, one just feels like a lump of meat walking around on the planet, eating, drinking, sleeping. Right? But the Buddha reminds us that we're more than that, really. So in that sense, it resonates. He was the epitome of courage. I mean, you know very well how Rinpoche loves the emaciated statue of the Buddha. He said, nothing happens without hardship. Nothing. You don't get enlightened without hardship. And I'm not very comfortable with hardship, I'd rather be comfortable. I'd rather have Makai Bari tea than ordinary whatever, really. I'd rather have tiramisu, is it called? Tiramisu cake rather than, New Delhi railway station cake from Britannia, That's a very poor substitute, even with Amul cream on it, So one has these habits which are very luxurious. And when I read that the Buddha is eating 1 grain of rice every day for 6 years, I say, what's that got to do with me? It feels very, very somewhere else. I can't say that inspires me so much, the 1 grain of rice. That just makes me feel, somehow he's a bit crazy, But then you read about the compassion, and we're very lucky, Renukaji, you and I and the people. We've met these great lamas, right? We know how much they cared for us. We are so lucky. How much they cared for us, how much they showed us in their lives, their example, they taught us. It's just amazing what they showed us, isn't it? Again and again and again. I remember just being transfixed by Rinpoche's introductions when he would go have bodhicitta motivation in his teachings at Kapan in the early to mid 80s. Extraordinary. One was transported into a different place temporarily by the compassion of the teacher, and a hint that could be something you and I could develop, right? So I think that's, the Buddha, since we all have Buddha nature, this is the other good news, we have Buddha nature, right? Basic goodness, potential. So therefore, the life of the Buddha rings a bell somewhere. Oh yes, I may be basically selfish and luxury loving right now, but there is a germ of, there is a seed of goodness in me, real goodness, and even ability to sacrifice sometimes. That's there. That is there. So I think that's how it resonates, and yeah. And then what is lacking, of course, is distraction. Sorry, distraction is not lacking. The mental factor distraction is what is causing the problem. You decide, okay, let's have a grand party because I'm 70. Then people bring you all these presents and say, then you eat them and enjoy, and then the problem of storage, problem of, this and that, and then you feel, oh no, now I have to go back to Bodhgaya and be a little ascetic again. It's painful, So, but also enjoyable. Enjoyable, painful. That's samsara. Enjoyable, painful. Come and enjoy the pain. It's like that. Enjoy the pain. But I'm very grateful to my friends for this enjoyable pain, or painful enjoyment. So the Buddha reminds me of something very noble, which we all have. I'm going round in circles now, so I won't repeat anymore. The Buddha reminds us of what we could be, and that is very wonderful, I think, very wonderful. And in this cynical world, where, I don't need to say more, in this cynical world, with all of its garbage, this is very needed. The Buddha's, isn't it? Don't you think? The Buddha's message? Because I feel he's telling the truth, whereas I don't know how much else I can believe of what I read and see in the world, But he's someone who seems to be telling the truth based on his hard work, no easy shortcuts. He went about it the hard way, and I feel he's telling us something very true, and also telling us to check it for ourselves. That really resonates. Once he gets enlightened, he says, you check everything for yourself. That really resonates. One's had enough of being told to do this, don't do that, and without any explanation. The Buddha says, check. So I think that's very useful. Don't you? What do you think? How does it resonate for you, the Buddha's life?
I think I'll have to come and give a lecture.
You will. I keep on telling you. Venerable, आप इनको बुलाइए ना. ये तो बार बार ये तो इतना जानते हैं, प्रोफेसर हैं, हाँ?
ठीक है
और बस अपने घर पे बैठ के पता नहीं क्या कर रहे हैं, हाँ? रिटायर्ड हैं, हाँ? किताबें लिख रहे हैं, यहाँ आके बोल रहे हैं कुछ. Sorry, I'm saying she should, the Venerable, who is the program coordinator, should encourage the director, who has so much experience with teachers and stuff, to come and give a lecture here. Last time you taught meditation here, people were crying, right? You said? Which is not always a good thing, but it could be. So you should come, and you obviously should come and give a lecture.
Thank you for your advice.
So SVC Saab, Venerable, now you please put her on the program. It's about time that she sat on the throne and shared her experience of the Dharma. It will be very valuable. Yeah. Okay, where are we? Time?
We are about to cut the cake.
Pardon? Cut the cake? Sorry, people on Zoom, you're going to have problems with this because we can't share the cake.
They can visualize.
You can visualize. There's not many left, actually. Most of them got bored and left, so that's okay. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Before the cake, yes. Let them eat cake. Yeah.
So I think in the first half of your lecture, you briefly spoke.
It wasn't a lecture, it was kind of ramble. Yeah.
You briefly spoke about short-term happiness. While I understand that, but the
Shortcut?
short-term happiness.
Short-term, yeah.
While I understand that, but the antonym of that probably would be long-term happiness. So
Yes.
Could you help me with a pragmatic definition of long-term happiness?
That's a good one. Long-term happiness is happiness that doesn't come to an end, which doesn't end in sorrow, frustration, and so forth. That would be really long-term, everlasting, beyond death. So that's rather unusual, right?
So that's again like the textbook definition of it, right? So how do I sort of materialize it in my,
Well, you have to study what it means, and then what would be the causes. What are the causes of short-term happiness? What are the causes of long-term happiness? Buddhism says until we have this I am feeling, you're never going to have long-term happiness. Because if I start thinking I and then connect it to what was just said about cutting a cake, then I am already visualizing that cake and wanting some cake. So that's a problem. I mean, it could be a problem in the sense that I would want to have, if you don't get a piece, then sorry, but I want it, And given my 70-year-old digestion, it could also be a problem. Because I tell you, things get harder to digest usually as you get older. There's all kinds of things awaiting you if you reach 70, by the way. All kinds of interesting sidetracks and booby traps and stuff. Anyway, long-term happiness, that's very well worth investigating what the teachings say about that. Very well worthwhile. And whether we could try and pretend, maybe I can get it without reducing this ego. Maybe there's another way. Maybe there's a shortcut. The Buddha Maitreya, who's behind me, he is the future Buddha. He's already given teachings at Tushita heaven. He said that just as excrement, right, which is a very decent word for what comes out in the toilet, just as excrement lacks a good smell, so samsara lacks happiness. The amount of real happiness in samsara, he said, it's not even as much as fits on the tip of the dew that will sit on the tip of one blade of grass. There's not even that much real happiness in what we call samsara, which is the cycle of birth and death, these contaminated aggregates propelled by delusion and karma. Delusion meaning the adherence to I, me, mine. If we're still have that problem, we will not have even that much real happiness. Pleasure is pleasure. It's not lasting happiness. I mean, check. How much pleasure can we stand even? How much cake can I eat? Does the pleasure increase as we have cake or dancing or sex or anything? Or does it have to decrease? If it has to decrease, then it's not real happiness. If it's a pleasure we crave because it's filling the gap we feel in an empty life or not being satisfied, so we want something, there's a wanting in the mind, then it's not real happiness. It's just trying to substitute boredom or pain with something, a temporary band-aid. That's not happiness. That's actually self-deception, actually, if we look at it that way. It's deceiving ourselves. And it's very, very sad situation. Actually, if we take it seriously, it's like, oh boy, If we take that truth on board, it's like what they say, Buddhism will not make you feel comfortable. It will make you feel very uncomfortable. Why? Because we want happiness, right? We want pleasure. We want to feel okay. We want to feel comfortable and secure and loved. Well, we're going about it in the wrong way. And we don't see it, and we're not prepared to see it. So that's bad news, initially. That's very bad news. This whole thing about happiness and pleasure is very bad news. The good news, you and I have Buddha nature, and so does everybody else, and so we can activate that Buddha nature. True, but then we have to do the work. Study, reflect, meditate. They say there's no other way. No being has attained awakening or liberation in any other way. They had to do some study. Even if they were illiterate, they had to do some listening. Study can mean listening also, to your teacher or to teachers. So listening, study, to reflecting, meditating. No other way. So, good question, yeah. Very, I need to ask it again and again. Next time I reach for the chocolate cake still in the fridge, one should be always thinking about that. But that shouldn't mean that we can't enjoy anything. That would be a problem. If we cannot enjoy anything, then we would be a killjoy, as they say. Enjoy, but realize, theek hai. It will not last. It cannot last. It's the nature of it not to last. And for any pleasure to decrease, the more we engage in it or want it, then it will decrease. But check it out. I might be talking nonsense, but I think this is something I think one has realized. Yeah. Shall we stop there?
I have a question.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
So I've been following Osho's teaching from last almost 5-6 months.
Okay.
While staying in Goa.
So Goa's a nice place to follow Osho's teachings.
So having my freedom at the same time.
Freedom to do what?
That kind of freedom.
What kind of freedom?
The illusionist freedom which I feel being in Goa, like beaches, parties and all that.
You already saw it as an illusion?
I mean, I've been following these teachings of Osho.
So he says it's an illusion?
I mean, everybody says that.
Everybody?
It's kind of
okay.
I
The
feel.
newspapers say it's illusion, yeah.
No,
the
no,
tourist
they
brochures.
don't. So I believe that I've been having a best life in Goa.
Best life?
Yeah.
Best illusory life?
And now I'm here in Delhi. This is my parents' home, Delhi.
Sad, no?
Very sad.
Yeah.
So my question is it really important to be at the parents' house to be grounded?
Grounded?
Yeah.
Ye karo, wo karo, ye, of
Grounded
course.
as in coming back to the real self.
That's exactly.
Not going to
Real
Goa.
self? What do you mean real self?
When I'm in Goa, for example, I'm
Yeah.
going to parties.
Oh.
I'm doing a lot of things for
Oh.
fun, right?
That's a flying self.
Flying self, I would say.
So what self?
Flying
I'm
self.
Flying.
I'm not into myself, I would say.
Oh, that's the ungrounded self.
Yes.
But does it make you... Okay, carry on. Yeah.
So my mentor told me, go back to your parents, be grounded for some time, and then from there start your journey. But when I come here, I'm having a lot of triggers a lot of things which I don't like at home.
Right.
Which I don't want to do.
Then you go to Goa again.
Yeah, but then again, those are not my facts.
Then come back.
But then this is
samsara, na?
so
Coming
that's
and
my
going.
question really.
हाँ, कुछ नहीं करना है, यही करते रहो until you get exhausted and then you keep on coming to Tushita और ये लोग आपको समझा देंगे कि क्या करना है.
यही तो मैं समझने
डॉक्टर
की कोशिश
रेणुका एंड वेनरेबल आपको समझा देंगे इस चक्कर से कैसे निकलना है.
तो यही तो मेरा question
आप समझ रहे हैं ना?
हाँ, मैं समझ
हमसे क्यों पूछ रहे हैं? इन लोगों से पूछिए. मैं तो केक खाने जा रहा हूँ. मैं तो केक खाने जा रहा हूँ. ये लोग बता देंगे. बट यू कीप ऑन कमिंग टू तुषिता.
ये
है ना?
रियलाइजेशन आपको खुद आएगी जब आप यहाँ पे रहेंगे, वहाँ पे जाएंगे, फिर यहाँ पे आएंगे. जब आप परेशान हो जाएंगे इससे, एक दिन फिर आप सोचेंगे कि मैं कौन हूँ.
कैसे निकलेंगे इस चक्कर से? चलती चक्की देखकर दिया कबीरा रोए, दो पाठन बीच आकर साबुत बचे न कोई. राइट, वही है. So if you want to get out of that, you have to come to Tushita, which is presided over by Lord Maitreya and our teacher's blessing, so you can't go wrong. But यहाँ वो नाच गाना नहीं होगा दादा. There's no jumping up and down and
my question was,
hugging everyone.
is it really necessary to be at parents' home for being grounded?
I have no idea. My parents are dead, so I don't know.
Okay,
It could be very ungrounding
right.
because you could get so angry every day that then what kind of grounding is that?
So being on
Lying on the beach in the sun might be more grounding. At least you've got the beach under you and the sea. That's very grounding. Why is that not grounding? So you have to think about it. Come and debate with our team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have time for a quick question? I think we should.
What's going on here? They're delaying the cake. No, carry on.
Okay, hello Kabir Ji. So
Hello.
my question is, okay, as somebody who's been like following and studying Buddhist philosophy for the last recent years,
Wow.
I still struggle with the concept of attachment.
You're struggling with attachment after all these years?
Like, how do I remind myself that, the impermanent nature of things and the fact that you should just enjoy the moment and things without being too attached.
You can enjoy the moment,
Yeah, but I mean,
but
like
you
it's
know
not
everything
exciting.
changes.
Yes.
What is not reminding you of change? Tell me. What is not reminding you of change?
I mean, you get too comfortable with certain things and certain people, and then you feel like things won't change, and then
That's
you
true.
forget the fact that things are actually impermanent.
I don't know. Anyway, come back. I've lost my capacity to think after I heard about the cake. So, हाँ, सीधी सी बात है.
Or you can
So
go
you
on
come and
Saturday
ask.
meditation.
हाँ. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just watch your mind. I mean, your mood now, your mood this evening, tomorrow morning, it's always changing, no? Has anyone close to you died ever?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Wait.
Wait, yes. That's a very cruel thing to say, but yeah, wait.
No.
Wait and see.
We are dying every moment, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dying to go to the toilet actually, but yeah, all sorts of things happening.
The cake is coming. You can wait.
Let's see. And now something embarrassing is going to happen. So anyway. So Venerable, thank you. Thank you very much.
On behalf of everyone here, and especially Renuka Ji, a little humble offering from our side. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all you're doing and all your practice. Thank you,
Happy
everyone.
Valentine's Day, everyone.
Oh,
Happy Love Day.
today?
Yes,
Is it?
today,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Just a quick announcement, please join us for 7 a.m. meditations and also 9 a.m. It's online. And on 18th, we are celebrating Closer. Everybody is welcome. And we would also be taking 8 Mahayana precepts in the morning. It's
Wow.
available on Zoom, also in person. And in the evening, we have Guru Puja. So we have
6:30?
6:30 p.m. You're very welcome to bring in your offerings, lights, whatever you like to offer to the altar,
Or food.
or food, and share with each other. So it's 6:30 p.m. We'll do a Lama Chopa soak offering. Thank you so much. And we have a very sweet looking donation box, so which are very high for attention.
Venerable, can you help offer this to maybe from that side? So we should all pray. We come under the guidance of Maitreya Buddha and his great compassion, bodhicitta, and Tushita prospers. And all of you have lasting happiness. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
I'm
Kabir Ji.
dashing to the toilet. And you can eat cake.
Kabir Ji,